Many still underestimate Andy Ruiz, and that mistake has followed him from the opening bell of his career. They look at his shape, the thick torso, the lack of sculpted muscle, and they assume softness. They assume limitations. They assume he is a heavyweight who survives on grit rather than skill. What they fail to see is that Ruiz has always been a contradiction, a fighter whose danger lives in places the eye doesn't expect. Beneath the rounded frame is timing that shreds defenses, hand speed that doesn't belong to a man his size, and a calm, almost casual violence that ends fights before opponents even understand the rhythm they're standing in. 12 knockouts tell part of the story, but they don't explain how unsettling it feels to be across the ring from a heavyweight who punches first, punches last, and never seems rushed doing it. From the early fights, the pattern was clear. Ruiz didn't stalk in straight lines or load up with wide swings. He slipped into range and let his hands go in tight, compact bursts, hooks and straight shots, snapping out with barely any warning. Opponents would brace for impact, expecting one heavy blow, and instead they were buried under combinations that never stopped. Against fighters like Francisco Diaz, the danger wasn't just the power, it was the pace. Ruiz pressed forward with a steady confidence, cutting off space, touching the body, snapping the head back, forcing retreat after retreat. Diaz tried to move, tried to survive off the back foot, but Ruiz punched first and last in every exchange, his hooks landing before the opponent's defense had time to reset. By the time Diaz realized he was hurt, balance was already gone, legs unsteady, survival mode activated. What makes Ruiz so unsettling is how natural it all looks. Heavyweights aren't supposed to throw 3- and 4-punch combinations without pausing. They aren't supposed to double hooks, roll their shoulders, and fire again before the opponent can breathe. Yet Ruiz does it without forcing the action. His jab dips to the body, his hands drop low, inviting return fire, and then he counters with speed that feels unfair. Even seasoned commentators sounded surprised watching him unload because every combination challenged what a heavyweight is expected to be. The ring would fill with noise as punches landed, but Ruiz himself stayed composed, reading reactions, stepping in just enough to keep opponents uncomfortable and trapped. Fight after fight, that pressure broke people. Against Joel Godfrey and Kelsey Arnold, it wasn't a single moment that ended things, but the accumulation. Ruiz hurt them early, smelled blood, and refused to let the night stretch longer than necessary. Body shots folded opponents inward, headshots snapped them back upright, and the referee became the only barrier between Ruiz and another early stoppage. Arnold tried to claim relief, tried to slow the pace, but Ruiz kept punching, kept forcing exchanges, and eventually the damage became impossible to ignore. Blood, heavy breathing, hands dropping, the body language of a man who knows he's reached his limit. Ruiz doesn't celebrate these moments, he simply finishes. Then there were the moments that shocked even those who thought they understood him. Against Ken Frank, the fight barely had time to exist. Ruiz touched him with a straight right, followed immediately by a left hook, and the night collapsed in seconds. The opponent went down hard, the kind of fall that empties an arena of breath. 35 seconds was all it took, and suddenly the reputation grew louder. This wasn't just a volume puncher, this was a finisher with precision. When Ruiz connects clean, fights don't drift into later rounds, they end where they stand. What often gets overlooked is Ruiz's background. Long before the knockouts stacked up, he was already a deeply schooled fighter. A Mexican Olympian with over 100 amateur bouts, he learned to box before he learned to brawl. That foundation shows in the way he absorbs shots, in how he answers immediately, never panicking, never losing structure. Against experienced opponents like Elijah McCall, Ruiz didn't rush the stoppage. He jabbed, he waited, he tested reactions, and then he turned the pressure up round by round. McCall tried to answer with power of his own, but Ruiz walked through it, eating shots that would discourage others, then firing back with hooks that shook legs and loosened grips. When the referee stepped in, it felt inevitable, not dramatic. Ruiz had imposed his will and broken resistance piece by piece. As the record grew, so did the disbelief. People kept waiting for the illusion to crack, for the body to betray the skill, for the gas tank to empty. Instead, Ruiz kept proving that conditioning doesn't always look the way fans expect. He ran, he trained, he lived in the gym, and it showed in the way he maintained pressure deep into fights. Against Matthew Greer, the body shots came early, the knockdowns followed quickly, and the referee had no choice but to stop it. Ruiz wasn't just winning, he was overwhelming. Carl Davis felt the same truth. Ruiz's hands came fast and furious, upstairs and downstairs, combinations flowing without pause. Davis tried to box, tried to use length, but the speed gap was undeniable. Ruiz slipped inside, punished the body, and forced the corner to make the decision the fighter could no longer make for himself. Towels came in, fights ended, and the pattern repeated. What ties all of these performances together is not brute force alone, but confidence. Ruiz fights like a man who knows exactly who he is. He understands that he will never be the chiseled heavyweight, and he doesn't chase that image. He leans into what makes him dangerous. Fast hands, short punches, relentless combinations. A chin that lets him stay in the pocket just long enough to make opponents regret engaging. When rivals underestimate him, he welcomes it. It gives him the opening he needs. Time and again, opponents learned the same lesson too late. Andy Ruiz is not built like a heavyweight champion, but he fights like one. His power is real, his speed is rare, and his ability to finish is undeniable. Every early knockout, every referee stoppage, every opponent left hanging on the ropes adds to a legacy built on contradiction. Ruiz breaks the mold, and in doing so, he breaks fighters who step in unprepared. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Andy Ruiz's overlooked dominance and the fights that revealed just how dangerous he really is, let me know what moment stood out to you the most. Do you think Ruiz's hand speed is the most underrated weapon in the heavyweight division, or is it his timing and pressure that make him so hard to handle? Drop your thoughts below, and if you want more long-form fight breakdowns and story-driven boxing documentaries like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next.